Legal costs in sexual assault cases, why they might be higher, and what that means for you as a survivor. If you're a survivor of sexual assault and have been thinking about a civil lawsuit, you may have heard about something called legal costs, and this term might be confusing, especially if your lawyer's working on a contingency basis, which means that you don't pay unless you win or settle your case. Even though you're not paying out of pocket, it can still be helpful to understand how legal fees work behind the scenes and how courts are starting to recognize that sexual assault cases often require more time, care, and work than other types of lawsuits. A case that helped to set a new standard is a case in Ontario called VT and DT. The judge in that case made an important decision that may help survivors in future cases. And this is what happened. So two survivors sued their grandfather in civil court for sexually abusing them over the course of many years. He had already pled guilty in criminal court and served nearly 7 years in prison. In the civil case, they agreed on most of the damages, but they still needed the court to decide on two things. So that was punitive damages, extra money meant to punish the abuser. That's what punitive damages are. And legal costs, so how much the abuser would have to pay for the survivor's legal fees. So in this case, the judge gave some guidance that is helpful on legal costs and said that costs should be higher in sexual abuse or sexual assault cases. Even though the judge didn't award extra money for punitive damages, and this was because the grandfather had already served a long prison sentence, the judge did agree that higher legal costs were fair and appropriate. And this was for several reasons. So first of all, survivors of sexual assault often need more time with their lawyer to feel safe enough to talk about what happened. So lawyers charge on an hourly basis, and the more time that it takes, that means the more expensive the matter is. Talking about traumatic experiences can be very difficult, and survivors may need to take breaks or go at their own pace. So the court did recognize this. Lawyers who represent survivors often take a trauma-informed approach, which means they need to go more slowly, listen carefully, and make sure that the process is as safe and respectful as possible. The court in this case recognized that all of this extra time and work takes time, but is necessary and worth it. The judge awarded $145,000 in legal costs, which is a much higher amount than what the defense said was fair. The judge said that this higher amount made sense given how complex and sensitive the case was. So you might be wondering, what does this mean if you're not paying your lawyer up front? So most survivors in civil cases do hire their lawyer on a contingency fee agreement, which means that you don't pay legal fees while the case is ongoing. If you win or settle, your lawyer is paid by a percentage of what you receive. And if you don't win and recover money, you usually don't owe anything for legal fees. Why does the court's decision about legal costs matter for survivors? The reason is because the abuser or the organization you're suing might be ordered to pay part or all of your lawyer's legal fees on top of what you win. This means that more of your compensation stays with you. It also helps cover the time your lawyer spent supporting you in a trauma-informed way. This decision that I was talking about with the two women who sued their grandfather for the abuse they suffered as children is important because it recognizes that your case matters and that it takes time and care to do it right. So lawyers shouldn't be rushed when working with survivors. The court also recognized that survivors deserve a legal process that respects their pace and their pain. And the courts are starting to recognize this, and that is a step in the right direction for survivors. So the bottom line here is if you're thinking about suing your abuser in civil court, you don't have to worry about paying legal fees up front. Normally, the lawyer will take your matter on a contingency fee basis, but it's good to know that courts are beginning to understand how complex these cases are and that survivors' lawyers may need to spend more time and effort to support their clients properly. This doesn't just benefit lawyers, it benefits you because it means your case is being treated with the care and seriousness it deserves by the courts and that the judges are recognizing that it does take care and seriousness to advance these claims. At Gerry Law, we do take a trauma-informed approach approach to every case we handle, and we believe that survivors deserve support, clarity, and justice. And we fight to make sure your case is heard, respected, and fairly compensated. If you want any more information about legal fees, how contingency agreements work, or what to expect in a civil lawsuit, please feel free to contact me at the information below.